Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to this new season of Bookbytes, our premium book review show where we bring you up to date the latest and the best of the literary world, especially our local literature, showcasing our local literature and literature around the world. It's been quite a year, a testing year, and we rely on our arts really to carry us through this this lifetime of living through a pandemic. As much as we see around us levels of darkness, we do rely on the creative arts, um, and um, and on what we experience through and process through the arts, to carry us through and to live through this pandemic, but at the same time to also make something of a legacy, through narrative fiction, through story, through memoir writing, and through poetry as well. It gives me absolute pleasure today, and delight, and especially a privilege to be able to have on the show somebody who has at the forefront of her work over almost 15 years, who has put African literature at the forefront of her work, and who has been honored so many times in so many places around the world, which actually speaks to just how much of an impact the work of Zukiswa Wanner is making, both locally and throughout the continent, and globally as well. Um, as much as Zukiswa Wanner doesn't need a lot of a big and impressive kind of introduction, I need to sort of take liberties and present just a snippet of what we know. So Kezia Wanner writes fiction, non-fiction, and children's books when she's not curating crazy, fun, literature-centered events or publishing books that she loves. And her novels have been shortlisted for various awards, such as the Herman Charles Bosman Prize, the K. Saludaika Prize, the Commonwealth Prize for Best Book, and various others. And in 2020, her cherry on top for now is that she was the first African woman to receive the Goethe Medal, was named Brittle Paper's African Literary Person of the Year. She's also my favorite African Literary Person of the Year, and was named among New Africa's 100 most influential Africans in 2020. She also founded the first virtual literary festival last year, the Afrolit Sans Frontier. And it gives me absolute pleasure and delight to welcome you on the show, Zukiswa. Thank you so much for availing yourself for this time, and for South African listeners as well.
An absolute pleasure, Shafinaaz. Assalamu alaikum to everybody. How are
Walaikum
you?
salam. It's wonderful, and to you as well. It's because we have been isolated, we have felt isolated, and normally the literary world would have burst open last year with so much available on the calendar, and suddenly with COVID, everything shut down, as you know. And especially you're the African literary butterfly. You pretty much cover almost every country on the continent when it comes to being on the literary scene. And I love your energy. I love that you actually then suddenly burst with this idea of just connecting despite the disconnect. And so that's really, really amazing. I know that you have a history, a beautiful history of um, belonging in every little bit of this continent. Tell us a little bit about who is Zukiswa Wanner, and how this informs your creative process.
Yeah, well, my dad is, as you know, Shaf is South African. My mom is Zimbabwean, and they met in Zambia, which is where I was born. And of course, now I stay in Nairobi, Kenya at the moment when I am not going other places on the continent. And I think this sense of always being um, an insider to all these different places, but also an outsider, has shaped me and how I look at the continent, and not just in general, but in particular in its literatures. So I'm always trying to find out how we can how we can connect, how we can make it happen. You know, initially, obviously, when we kicked off, it was where we had like a lot of would connect with writers from, say, Nigeria, Ghana, and so forth and so on. But last year, with the advent of the lockdowns and stuff, I also then saw an opportunity because we don't normally speak as much to our francophone and lusophone siblings. So I figured, hey, this is a chance for us to do it, you know, and hopefully I will be able to do the festival again this year. And this time around, instead of us getting into a space where we have a Lusophone writer, and then maybe somebody in the comments will do the translations. We'll do StreamYard with translators for when it's an English speaking writer. We'll have translators for Lusophone, for French and Portuguese, so that everybody can be able to be in on it, which I think would be a very exciting way of doing it. So fingers crossed for funding.
Yes, absolutely. That's where it's at, because then you can actually put the energy where it's needed. And I think it's wonderful because this is what you're doing, is drawing the expertise and the talents, and making it available to a wider audience on the continent as well. And at the same time, creating entertainment, but addressing a lot of the social ills and the difficulties and the challenges faced as a continent, as individual countries, and as artists, making our way across these different spaces. Now, if we just have to quickly step back to the beginning, because sort of every supernova has some kind of a beginning. And back in 2006, when you wrote the Madams, and soon after that, your sort of flow of novels, every single one of them have been honored and have been well received by readers, and have created such amazing discussions around them. Behind every successful man, Men of the South, and then your multi-award winning London Cape Town Joburg, with the Kesa Lodeka Award. I mean, talk us through novel writing, the process, the thoughts, and what's exploded from there.
I see how humble you are. You actually decided that you weren't going to talk about the nonfiction work that you edited, um, made an essay, 30 Ways to Leave Your Madams. But okay, there you go. But novel writing, yeah. Wow, it's been a journey, really. I think that's my primary form of writing, and I enjoy it immensely. And it has it has had, I always say, like, there's some people who come out with short story collections like you have just recently, which I enjoyed immensely, by the way. But I can write only one good short story in like 2 3 years. But novel writing, generally, like when I sit down and I just start crafting, it just, I need to have a soundtrack. Once I have the soundtrack and everything else, it just kind of like flows over a short period of time, and then that's it. And when I have got a work in progress, as I do now, I don't consider it really like, and I haven't finished, I don't consider it like writer's block or anything. I always just look at it like, maybe the story is not ready yet, and I just need to leave it and I do something else.
Okay. So it really is a birthing process in many ways.
It is, absolutely. But you know this, Miss Economy of Love and Happiness.
The thing is, I love listening to fellow writers speak about their process, because there's something so magical about the similarities of struggle, but the differences in how you overcome those struggles with developing plot or developing character. I mean, you're saying I know the novel is easy for you because it shows in the output, and your short stories are so thoughtful and so well thought out that if it takes 2 years to craft them, then I understand masterpieces take time in the making. I mean, for Africa 39, where we both contributed. You can see the vast measure of of gold that we have in our collective went into that collection, and I wish we will have very much enjoyed your, how you develop your characters, but the kind of influence and intent that goes behind them definitely shows. And I'm speaking now as a reader before I speak as a writer, because we've been much more critical as readers, taking a look at the work. You mentioned the nonfiction work. And yes, that came out a few years ago when we edited, and I know that you've given new life to it because now you hold the full copyright. So
Yeah.
definitely, let's talk about that most controversial of topics and the most controversial work where you're making social comment, but in the most enlightening and delightful way as only you can. I'm highly biased, so as only you can. Talk to us about Made in South Africa.
Well, Made in SA was I remember when you were editing it, where you referred me to a certain book, and I said to you, no, that's the serious work. Mine is the light-hearted one, you know. But
The
yeah, no,
sociologist was trying to direct
yeah,
you.
that was the sociological work, you know. And I was like, no, no,
My
no, mine is
apologies.
no. But it was fun that you said it. But yeah, no, no. You know, Made in SA. I wanted to be able to write a book that, when anybody read it, they could be able to read it and see themselves, but also not feel judged so much that they wouldn't self-correct, but also
Right.
question how we do things, how we have that all important relationship, the domestic worker and
Yes.
and and the and to me it was also a very much, I didn't include men because it was very much a sister to sister conversation as far as I was concerned. So I was like, hey, sisters, let's have a conversation. And I think one of the greatest comments that I ever received on it was a friend um, who said, a friend's domestic worker who read it, and she said to me, uh, ma'am, every madam needs to read this book. And I was like, oh, yeah, you know? So, yeah, absolutely.
No, and I think satire has a powerful way of doing that.
Mm,
Satire is a vehicle that can do things that other genres might not have the quite the impetus to be able to cover, because it does allow a mirror. It allows you to look at that and say, well, this is something, and like you say, without judging, without kind of pointing a finger in the chest, kind of thing.
mm. Who
So
was
you
your
do that
favorite madam, by
fabulously.
the way?
Oh no, this is very controversial to
Come
get into
on!
right now on a public platform. No, but I mean, I think that you make a lot of very kind of distinct is. I was worried that we lost a connection there for a second, but I think we're
I
doing
thought so too.
fine. And then Refillware, one of my other favorites is when you took the children's story. I mean, your multi-genre approach to your creativity is precisely what gives you your power as a writer. And so when I read Refillware, which is Rapunzel, written for our children,
Yeah.
the particularities, the nuances of being an African child and understanding who Refillware is makes it such a beautiful story. And I recently picked up an Afrikaans copy as well because my nieces are learning Afrikaans now. Here they have a story that they loved, so they already
Mm.
understand the trajectory, and then they're learning it in their second language. So, you know, it's important to be able to reach your audiences at different age groups, and you're able to do that orally, in the written word, and in other ways. Are there more to look forward to in terms of children's literature? What can we
Absolutely.
expect?
There is. All right. Well, firstly, wait. I am with you. I already have this, which came out in 2019.
Okay.
Um, yeah. So this is Africa, a true book, and it's like it takes you through the continent, and you know, all the different spaces, the geography, the history, the what you call it. I did it with Scholastic in the US,
Okay.
and I have coming up this year with Pushkin Press in the UK. I have the Black Pimpernel, which is
Wow.
they selected, I think, six writers, and I'm one of the six in the world. And it's really just like a biography of Nelson Mandela during that time when he was underground, when he was the Black Pimpernel. So I did that particular, and it's really spanning from 1961 to 62 before he got arrested. So I had a lot of fun with that because I had to do it for kids. It's age group is 8 to 12 years old, and it should be out in May.
So this is, I mean, this is legacy making on the next level, which is amazing because now you're presenting material for, you know, for global sort of the sort of global palette, and that's obviously from the continent. And your material is available in different languages as well, right? Let's talk indigenous language. Let's talk about accessibility in terms of your widening.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, okay, with with Refilio, obviously, I was very excited that it was translated into all the other 10 other languages in South Africa, besides English. But I have also decided as a publisher myself to do quite a bit of translation of the stuff that I've done, because I want um, stories for children that I really enjoy to be able to be available to people beyond just the kids who read English. I want us to go beyond that privilege. So let me show you. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Okay, so I've got my children's anthology that I published, Story Come, and it's been translated into Chivenda, it's been translated into Isxhosa, it's been translated into Shona, and we have Kiswahili translation coming up. And yeah, so hopefully that will come out this year. But I've also been chatting to one of our Africa 39ers on Jackie, and we are hoping that we can do a Kimbundu translation for the Angolan crowd,
Okay.
a French translation so that we can get into Francophone Africa and have like a Lingala translation as well, and Chichewa translation. I'm trying to see how many languages we can have, just so that all the kids that I absolutely have met and loved can be able to enjoy these stories in their own languages, but also so that we can preserve language in that way. Because um, you know, sometimes you get into a situation where I'm at 2000 don't even know how to speak like an African language, and I think this is a
Right.
way to get them to enjoy it and learn it. So if they have an English and then they have their mother tongue version there, and then they'll be able to maybe like play with it and get to know language a little bit.
And so this is your imprint Paivapo, right? That's your
Paivapo, yes.
publishing company.
Mm.
Tell us about Paivapo. What does it mean?
Paivapo. My mom, as I mentioned, my mom is Zimbabwean, and Paivapo is when you're telling a story in in Karanga, you start by saying Paivapo, which is the English would say once upon a time, but it's really there was a time.
Okay.
Paivapo, there was a time. So this is how you start a story. So
Okay.
I was saying
Wow.
Paivapo, we're starting a story. Here we're beginning the story, and the story obviously is taking our narratives back and owning them and publishing what we like and telling our stories, and that's really it. So Story Come was the first book that I did, and then I did Nkoma Wangugis with a card, And of course, I've taken all my rights back for a lot of my work. So I have reissued that. And then next thing I have coming up very soon, Angolan writer Yara Monteiro. I got the translation rights for her book. So we're going to have that in English, all being well,
That's
in
fantastic.
March. In May, we also have Noktula Mazibuko's Daughters of Nandi, of Queen Nandi. So she is doing this story where Nandi recounts the things through history. So I'm very excited about the work that's going to be coming out with Paivapo.
I feel like history is visiting you in your dreams, and all of these processes and works are going to keep coming through by Vapo, and through your pen as well. In terms of getting hold of your books now, especially that you've reissued a lot of your titles under Paivapo, where can we read and our readers get hold of your books here in South Africa?
Okay, you can get them through Biolumen. That's bio-lumen.co.za. They deliver. You can also get them through afroculture.co.za. And then we have Bright Spark. Angela Makolwa I'm a publisher. Angela Makolwa is printing. And in addition to
So she can
printing,
print on
she's now
demand.
setting up yeah, she's now setting up a bookstore,
Fantastic.
you know.
Okay.
So she will also have those books available.
That's
I
fantastic because I've
am
had book clubs
in
writing to
a
me saying, where can we get?
Yeah. And then I'm negotiating to get into CNA in the near future. So look out there. But at the moment, I'm most interested in seeing that we have the books out by indie bookstores, because I think, oh
Absolutely.
yeah, and Book Circle Capital also in Melville has some copies of my work. So yeah, I do think, I appreciate that the chains have larger reach. I like the idea of supporting independent bookstores as well, and seeing how we make it work
And
together.
I also think the pandemic has presented new challenges in a sense that people are not just walking into bookshops. So your online
Mm,
reach and the ability to have signed books available to readers is
absolutely. Oh,
that
I
much more
forgot.
precious, but also
Also
easier
Chicken
to do.
Natives, by the
So
way. Chicken Natives will have some copies as well of my work.
okay, perfect. That's excellent because,
Mm.
like I said, book clubs are looking for your books, the older editions as well. So that's where it's at. Everybody wants to read what's no longer on the shelves and how to get them. So it's fantastic that Paivapo is now issuing new editions of all of your work, and we look forward to new work that's going to come from your pen and from your publishing house as well. And any tentative dates for the festival for Afrolit Sans Frontier?
All being well, I'm looking at kicking off probably late February. The whole idea with Afrolit and Frontiers has always been the last February, the last Monday of a month. So hopefully last Monday of February to the next Monday, because it's always 8 days. And because I don't nearly think that the first 16 got enough exposure, I'm probably gonna kick off with the first 16 again from last year, and then we'll have like other people, new faces later on. But because the first 16 were like when everything was low key and nobody knew anything and whatever, you know. They didn't get, and they're all fantastic writers, amazing names, and I know quite a lot of them have also come up with new things during the pandemic. I know Leia Denle, for instance, has just finished a manuscript that I had the pleasure of reading and enjoying so much. And if he's kind enough to me after he's done his edits, maybe Pineapple will publish it like around August, September. you know. But yeah.
So do you think the virtual festival offers new challenges, or is it just are there a lot more opportunities instead of just
I,
being
I,
able
I
to
I
play both with
actually
your
think
list and your timeline?
I think it's advantageous because people who wouldn't normally travel to literary festivals, um, can all they need to do is put on their phone and follow something online, and they'll be able to get it. But I have also gotten to know like a lot of writers that I wouldn't have had access to, you know, if they had to be flown into a physical festival. So I think there is that added advantage. I don't think the physical literary festival is going away anytime soon. Heck, I hope it doesn't go away because there is that wonderful one-on-one interaction that you have with
That
other
energy,
writers and
yes.
readers and stuff and everything. But I also really like the idea that we have access to people that we wouldn't have. We can do this online, and people get to know that writers just are not like those boring intellectuals stick in the muds, whatever. I think actually writers are probably like some of the craziest artists that I know, and but people assume because it's book, it therefore means you must be serious. But I don't think it's that serious. And I'm glad that I was then able to give a platform like Afro Lits and Frontiers, and of course this platform that you have, to people so that they realize it's never that serious. It's art.
And art is meant to be shared in whatever way, and accept whatever
Exactly.
criticism comes is part of the process of making that art. Absolutely that. Zukiswa, thank you so much for the time that you've given us. And it's never going to be enough when the two of us sit down and talk about this thing that we love so much, which is the written word, and the power of story. I do hope, as much as we're going to connect virtually over festivals, I do hope that we can see this time through and get through the challenge of living through a pandemic, of documenting the social history of our time, but also being able to reach out and embrace books and each other very soon, as soon as this is all over. Do you have any
Please don't
any
say
words
embrace
of
social
wisdom for our
distancing.
listeners? Any parting words of wisdom for our listeners?
um I wish I had words of wisdom, but yeah, please do read The Economics of Love and Happiness if you haven't read it, because it's an amazing novel. Read a lot. There's a lot of amazing literature coming out of not just South Africa but out of Africa, and um, you just need to go to my timeline or go to Afro Lit Sans Frontiers and see all the people who've taken part, to see some of the amazing writers that you can actually have access to. So yeah, have fun and enjoy the reading. And remember, reading is an art form. It's just a story. It's like a movie or anything else. Don't be like, I don't read.
No, and I want to add to that by saying that, I still get people who say, but we don't have enough South African writing out there. That's absolutely not true. And this is the work that you and I do, is just to highlight the fact that we do have amazing material that the globe in general thirsts for. South African stories from the African continent. And we just got to keep making sure that there's a platform where people can reach our
Absolutely.
stories and continue to read all of our local material that's available. Once
Absolutely.
again, thank you for your time. And I'm very sure that in the future we will have another opportunity to talk about what's come out on the scene again.
Thanks a lot, Shaz.
Thanks
It's
so much.
been lovely as always. And I'm sad that it's such a short time, but I enjoyed it. Thank you, as
You're
always.
welcome. You're welcome. And so there you have it, for our first session, for our first episode of the season 3 of Book Bites. The absolute pleasure of being able to speak to South African award-winning author and publisher Zukiswa Wanner, who's always got her finger on the pulse of African literature. And I'm quite certain that we will be seeing a lot more from her. Please get hold of her books, her novels, her nonfiction writing, and tune in to Afrolit Sunsfortia later in February when you'll be able to get a full reach of what's available in the latest in African literature. Thanks for watching once again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.